She sat at the edge of the bed, quietly. No radio, no fan, just the ticking of the old clock on the wall. I looked at her hands, veins showing, fingers trembling, just slightly, as she stared at a small white pill in her palm. "Mama, do you want some water?" I asked gently. She looked up, blinked twice, and said something I never expected. "I don't want to take this anymore." I paused. "Which one?" She smiled faintly. "All of them." I laughed, nervously. Surely she was joking. This was the same woman who'd been on medication for high blood pressure, arthritis, sleep problems, acid reflux, and anxiety. 7 pills in the morning, 3 at night, every single day. She had a pill organizer with the days of the week on top. We even had a second one, just in case. "Mama, are you okay?" I asked again. But she didn't answer. Instead, she closed her hand around the pill, slowly turned her palm down, and let it drop onto the floor. It rolled gently across the wooden boards, a sound so small, but louder than anything I'd heard that week. She meant it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing her voice in my head. "I don't want to take this anymore." And I kept asking myself, was she giving up? Was she scared? Or was she finally fighting back? You see, we think old age is all about accepting things, aches, pain, forgetfulness, fatigue. We think it's normal, but maybe it isn't. Maybe we've confused being alive with just being maintained. And that night, watching my 82-year-old mother quietly refuse another chemical capsule, I realized something. She wasn't being rebellious. She was reclaiming something. Her voice, her will, her say. The next morning, I found her into the kitchen, pouring warm water into a clay mug. No tea bag, just plain water. She looked peaceful, softer than I'd seen her in months. "I'm not stopping everything," she said as if reading my thoughts. "I'm just starting something else." That sentence sat with me all day, and slowly, I began to understand. I wish I could tell you Mama woke up the next day dancing in the kitchen. She didn't. Real change never looks like the movies. The first 48 hours were tense. A slight headache, a restless night, a fear in my own chest that I'd made a terrible mistake by agreeing to her wish. So I did the only responsible thing. I called her doctor. Not to ask for permission, Mama had already made up her mind, but to ask for guidance. "How do we step down safely?" I asked. He sighed, then surprised me. "If she's determined, let's build a taper plan. Bring her in Friday. We'll track her vitals twice a week." That one sentence lifted a mountain off my shoulders. We weren't rebelling against medicine. We were partnering with it, on her terms. We started small. Day 1, cut the nighttime acid reflux pill in half. Day 3, swap the morning anxiety tablet for 10 minutes of box breathing. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Out, 2, 3, 4. 6. Mama loved that exercise. Said it felt like opening a window inside her ribs. The next morning she asked me to time her pulse. 72. Steady. We logged everything in a notebook. Blood pressure, sleep hours, pain scale from 1 to 10. Not a single number was perfect, but every page showed the same handwritten word at the bottom, still trying. By week 2, something strange happened. The pill organizer on the counter, usually cluttered, looked almost empty. 3 slots filled instead of 10. Colors I'd memorized, blue for cholesterol, pink for pain, were gone. In their place, a small bowl of blueberries, a thermos of warm turmeric water, 2 sunlight yellow sticky notes that said, "Walk after lunch and call Sarah." And Mama, she was no longer napping through the afternoon news. She was sitting by the window, knitting half-finished scarves for everyone she loved. The yarn kept tangling, her fingers shook, but her eyes were alive. One evening she hugged me without warning. Her voice cracked. "Mi hijo." I can feel my feelings again. Not just the fog. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so I did both. Because I finally understood what those pills had cost her. Not just side effects, sleepiness, stomach aches, swollen ankles, but texture. The peaks and valleys that make a day feel real. Of course, it wasn't perfect. Arthritis still whispered in the mornings. Some nights fear still tiptoed in and stole her sleep. On those nights, we kept her doctor's number on speed dial and a single rescue tablet in the bedside drawer, just in case. But most nights, we reached for lavender tea instead. Deep inhalations, slow exhalations, and a story about the years she learned to ride a bicycle in sandals because shoes were too expensive. That memory had been buried under layers of prescriptions. Now it fluttered back, feather light, making us both laugh until the kettle whistled. Week 4, doctor's appointment. Blood pressure, 128/78. Resting heart rate, 68. Inflammation markers down 10%. He flipped through the chart, stared at her, then at me. What changed besides the meds? Mama spoke before I could. I changed. I moved more. I breathed deeper. I forgive faster. And then she giggled, like a girl caught sneaking cookies. The doctor adjusted his glasses, smiled, and wrote one more line in her file. Continue lifestyle protocol. Review in 6 weeks. For the first time in years, we left the clinic without a new prescription. The sun felt a little warmer on the parking lot pavement. Mama lifted her face to it, closed her eyes, and whispered, "Gracias." I wish I could promise everyone the same numbers, the same relief. I can't. Bodies are stories written in different alphabets. But I can promise this. A pill is not the only chapter. It doesn't hurt to ask questions, to seek partnership, not dependency, to let a physician guide you, but let your spirit lead you too. And if you're listening, wondering whether your own parent could ever try, remember, we didn't yank the wheel. We turned it one gentle degree at a time with professional supervision. Start with a conversation. Start with a breath. Start with belief that even at 82, change is possible. If you've helped a loved one lower their medications safely, share one thing that made the journey easier. Your comment might become the light for someone else still standing in the dark. People always ask me, what did you replace the pills with? And I always pause because the truth isn't a product. It was never about magic teas, superfoods, or expensive retreats. It was about 3 simple rules. So gentle, so ordinary. They almost sound like nothing, but they were everything. Rule number 1, wake with the sun, sleep with the stars. Before, Mama used to sleep late, TV on, light buzzing, alarms set for pills. Her nights were fractured, her days foggy. So we changed her rhythm. We drew open the curtains at 6:30 a.m. She sat near the window with a blanket and a cup of warm lemon water. Not for detox, for sunlight. That morning light, it's nature's signal to the body, you are alive. Begin. Her sleep improved in 5 days. Just because she realigned with the sky, no blue lights, no screens after dinner, just a warm bath, soft music, and a promise. We rest when the world rests. Her face looked brighter by week 2. The deep shadows under her eyes softened. She laughed more. She even remembered her neighbor's cat's name. Tiny signs, but real. Rule number 2, one gentle movement every day. Not exercise, not gym routines, just one movement that she enjoyed. Some days it was sweeping the porch. Some days stretching while holding the counter. Other days, slow dancing to her favorite bolero songs. We never forced a schedule. We followed feeling. If you can move, you're not stuck, I told her. She believed me. And something beautiful happened. Her joints complained less. Her feet swelled less. She stopped asking for pain cream at night. One morning, she carried a basket of laundry to the line by herself, and when I tried to help, she looked at me and said, "Let me feel useful again." I stepped back and watched her hang clothes like a woman reclaiming her rhythm. Rule number 3, feed the body, but nourish the soul first. We didn't go keto. We didn't count calories. We just asked, does this meal feel like a hug? Instead of cereal from a box, we made porridge with dates. Instead of pills before food, she had prayers. A small whispered gratitude before each bite. She slowed down, chewed longer, smiled between sips. Some mornings she'd tear a piece of toast and say, "This reminds me of my mother's bread." And suddenly breakfast wasn't just fuel, it was memory, emotion, warmth. Her digestion improved. Her appetite returned. She even began requesting mangoes again, her favorite, long forgotten. And what did the doctor say? He said what I hoped to hear, but never expected. I don't know what you're doing, but don't stop. Her blood work didn't lie. Inflammation, down. Sleep hormone balance, improved. Stress markers, reduced. No side effects, no new complications, just subtle, silent healing. And yet, none of this felt like a miracle. It felt like coming home, coming back to the rhythm the body remembers, to the care we forgot to give ourselves, to the truth that sometimes slowing down is the fastest path to healing. So if you're wondering whether change is possible, it is. Not overnight, not with one product, but with small, consistent kindness. If your family follows any small daily rule that helps someone feel better, share it in the comments. You never know who might read it and find hope. 3 months into her journey, Mama asked me something simple. Can we go to the market today? I blinked. Not because the question was strange, but because it was hers. For months I had been offering, inviting, nudging, and now she was the one ready to go out into the world. We dressed slowly. She picked her soft green shawl, the one with the faded embroidery. Her walking shoes were a little dusty. We cleaned them together. As I opened the front door, she took a deep breath, not anxious, not rushed, just present. Outside, the world hadn't changed. The sun was the same, the breeze just as gentle, but she had changed, and the world could tell. We reached the small produce stand at the corner, where we'd gone for years. The shopkeeper looked up, smiled politely, then did a double take. Senora Elena? She laughed, covering her mouth. I almost didn't recognize you. You look... He paused, searching for the word. You look strong. She nodded and whispered, I feel like myself again. As we walked between stalls, a few people greeted her. Neighbors, old friends, some with polite surprise, some with joyful shock. One woman touched her shoulder and said, You've been missed. Mama turned to me and said softly, I didn't know people noticed. She did now. She picked fresh oranges, ran her fingers along the tops of cilantro bunches, laughed at the price of tomatoes, and stood without leaning, walked without fear, spoke without pause. To anyone else, it looked like an ordinary Tuesday morning. To me, it was a celebration, a silent parade, a moment that screamed, she's back. At the bakery, the man at the counter handed her a small loaf of her favorite bread, warm, crusty on the edges. On the house, Senora, he said. It's good to see you walking again. She touched his hand and smiled. It's good to feel again. We sat on a bench nearby. She broke off a piece of bread, handed it to me. For a long moment, we ate in silence. No rush, no schedule, no pills. Just sunshine, fresh air, and crumbs of happiness. That day, she didn't just reclaim her energy. She reclaimed her place in the world. Her right to be seen, to be heard, to take up space with dignity. For months, her world had shrunk to the size of a bedroom. Now, with every step through that market, it expanded again. When we came home, she placed the groceries gently on the kitchen table, then turned to me and said, Let's do it again next week. And I knew this wasn't a one-time victory. This was her new normal. Not medicine-led, but memory-led. Not fear-controlled, but faith-driven. Because healing doesn't always come in a bottle. Sometimes it comes in a walk, in a smile, in the feeling of warm bread between your fingers. Sometimes it looks like a woman at 82 choosing life all over again. If someone you love is trying to find their way back to joy, remind them, the world is still waiting. Even a walk through the market can be a miracle. If no one has told you this today, let me be the first. You are not too old to begin again. Not too old to feel better. Not too old to say no to things that no longer serve you. Not too old to choose what brings you joy, peace, meaning. Maybe you've been told, this is just how it is at your age. But what if that's not the whole truth? What if there's still a spark inside you? What if you don't have to accept constant fatigue, confusion, or silence? What if, like Mama, you could choose to try something different? One breath at a time. She didn't become perfect. She didn't become young again. She became present. She stopped chasing numbers, stopped managing symptoms like a full-time job, and started noticing things again. The taste of honey, the sound of birds outside the window, the comfort of her own voice saying, I'm still here. So if you're 60, 70, 80, or 90, and you've ever felt like the world was moving past you, please remember, you are still part of the story. And the ending is not written yet. You don't need to throw away all your pills. You don't need to become someone new overnight. You just need to ask, what would feel kind to my body today? What would feel kind to my soul? And then do that one thing, a walk, a warm drink, a phone call, or maybe just 5 minutes of peace. You deserve that, not because you're young, not because you've achieved something, but because you're still breathing, still becoming, still here. Mama is 83 now, still walking, still praying, still forgetting where she put her slippers, but remembering every line of her favorite song. And every now and then, she still looks at me with that same smile and says, I'm glad I stopped. I'm glad she did too, because she didn't just stop the pills. She started living again. If this story reminded you of someone, your mother, your father, a friend, share it with them. It might be the nudge they need to believe that their life isn't over. It's just entering a new chapter. And if you've ever helped someone find that new chapter, leave us a comment. We read them, we feel them, and we honor every voice that says, I'm still here and I'm still trying. From my heart to yours, stay kind, stay curious, and don't be afraid to begin again. You are not forgotten, not today, not ever.